Welcome to the Tiling Connect podcast. This podcast is designed to raise the standards of the tiling industry by sourcing and sharing the best and latest in standards, technology, and innovation with its listeners. Before we get started, everything we talk about in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your own personal situation. You should always seek professional advice for any specific matters.
Aaron Genesin from Tectonic Tiling. Welcome to Tiling Connect.
Hey, mate. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Mate, thanks for making some time today. We really appreciate it. And when I say we, the wider audience and the community of tiling contractors around Australia and New Zealand. So we love kicking off all of these episodes by getting to intimately know our guests as much as we can in the very short period of time that we have. So I'm initially going to throw it over to you, not bombard you with too many questions, and get you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and Tectonic Tiling.
Okay, so I'm Aaron Genesin. I'm Managing Director of Tectonic Tiling. I've been in the company was formed back in 2003. It's sort of morphed into what it is at the moment. And, it's been nearly 20 years running this gig and loving every minute of it. Our main gig is commercial tiling with a whole lot of high-end residential thrown in. And, we love to do a lot of challenging projects, I guess, and things that are, people like to always mostly take the easy route when it comes to providing these services, and where I like to go the other way and go, right, how can we tile this ceiling, or how can we lay this palladiana and polish it in situ? And, I'm always trying to learn as I go and teach the staff at the same time, I guess. So
that's awesome.
These challenging projects, lead to experience, and the experience leads to bigger and better things.
Yeah, fantastic, man. That's great. And how many are on your team? How many people?
So I employ 10 full-time staff, and then we have a selection of subbies that come in and out as we need during the year. But generally, there's a handful of apprentices, and I like to keep a good rotation of first, second, and third year apprentices. And then each year they move up a step, and then I bring in some fresh blood, and the cycle continues. And I like to keep them employed once they finish their apprenticeship.
Yeah, nice.
So for me, creating that a comfortable work environment where everyone's happy, everyone wants to be there, and everyone wants to kick goals together. That's really, you spend most of your life at work, and so you need to be happy in that place. And I feel like if the staff aren't happy, you won't get the best out of them.
Yeah, agreed. And you want to have a pretty awesome team around you, right? Because that makes going to work and being a part of that team environment so much more flourishing when you're around, really positive, upbeat people.
Absolutely. Yep. It all makes the experience a lot better, that's for sure.
Oh, awesome. And Aaron, I'm not sure if you mentioned before, which part of Australia are you in?
Sorry, we're in Adelaide.
Yeah.
The majority of our work's in Adelaide. We do venture to Tasmania and Northern Territory for a whole heap of projects. We do a lot of work in the country in South Australia. We've done a lot of work at Ayers Rock and Yalara, and on the outskirts of the township itself. But
yeah, nice.
There's pretty much nowhere we wouldn't go, I'd say.
Yeah, wherever the work takes you.
Yeah, as long as the price is right.
as long as the price is right. I love that.
Yeah, that's probably the main gist of it. I'll go anywhere for the right price.
Exactly. So, yeah, and provide amazing quality.
That's it.
Hey, that's great, man. And tell me, have you always been in tiling? Is this sort of a family tradition, or were you doing something before tiling?
Well, it is a family tradition. I'm a third generation tiler, and there's many tilers in the family. I think my mum told me there's 13 cousins, extended family, people I don't even know that are blood related. That there's a lot of us anyway. So I guess it's in the blood. It does seem that you're either a tiler or a interior architect in my family. They're the two main trades.
Wow. That it makes some very interesting talk at the Christmas table.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And I guess I worked with my dad, who was also a tiler, and I worked with him in the school holidays and on weekends. And, I really enjoyed working with him, where my brother, who was also under the same experience as me, he didn't like the manual labor, I guess. And that's probably what pushed him into interior architecture. But I pursued it. And, I think in my heart, I always knew I was going to become a tiler. And I finished year 12. I started a banking and finance degree, and then realized, man, I can just see this isn't going to be fun. I'm going to have to go to work in the same office every day. And I just couldn't imagine that, especially even through the whole of uni. Any spare time was still tiling with my old man. So yeah, I think I didn't finish the degree, and I've left uni. My old man said, right, what are you going to do? I said, I want to be a tiler. This is what I want to do. He said, right, if this is what you're going to take seriously, here's my offer to you to come and work for me. And it was probably more than anyone was going to make in the next 6 years of their life. Yeah. And I thought, beauty, there's a good stepping stone and a starting point. And I pretty much never looked back from there. And I didn't go to TAFE. I did get my qualifications, because in Adelaide you need to be licensed. Yep. To be a tiler. So I did get my licensing requirements all ticked off, and I'm a licensed tiler. And 4 years later, me and the old man became directors of a company called Tectonic Holdings. And, that's morphed into what it is today, which is Tectonic Tiling.
Yeah, fantastic.
And me as the sole director.
Cool. Is your father retired?
He is not retired. He is he's the company mascot.
He's a company mascot.
Yeah, he's the full-time company mascot. But he is, he still maintains the old school knowledge and experience. Yeah. And he'll still he can still out screed, out mosaic, and out tile most of anyone that I know that he comes across. He's 68 years old. It might even be 69. And I think he's just had his birthday, so he's 69.
Yeah, but, wow.
Yeah, he's still working every day.
That's awesome. Yeah. So cool. Well, let's fast forward a little bit, and on the show and on this program, we receive a lot of different questions and that from the audience through different social media platforms and that sort of thing, and I always like to bring those questions out into these sort of episodes and ask people that are in the trade and working at the coal face every day and get their take on how they do things, because I think that sharing of information really assists other people in business. So one of the things that obviously I think it's pretty much a hot topic any time of the day, any day of the year, but it comes up very often, is how do you go about recruiting new tilers, like people that are interested in wanting to do the trade? What are your tricks? How do you do it?
So I think number one, it's very hard. Employing people is difficult. Finding people is even more difficult. And then ultimately finding someone that fits with your group, fits in with the ethos of the company, that's also difficult. It's a real challenge to tick all these boxes and make everyone fit. But I like to, for apprentices, I have a very close relationship with the lecturers at TAFE here in South Australia.
Oh yeah.
And I'm constantly on the phone to them saying, hey, is there any new, because we have a program called Pathways to Construction here in South Australia, and that's basically kids that are still in year 11 who are wanting to do a trade, and they're trying different things. And I'm always open to have people coming to do work experience, especially from this particular course, because they've already decided that they want to be in a trade. They might not know what trade it is, but they know they want to be in a trade. And so for me, that's one box already ticked off. Convincing them that to become a tiler isn't difficult. It's enjoyable work, and it's very rewarding. And so from that point of view, I really think. Sorry, I've just lost my train of thought.
No, that's cool.
So basically, I have good relationships with the lecturers.
Yeah,
they're able to, put me in the right direction for kids that are interested, kids that are swapping. Say they might be employed by someone and they're not having a very good experience. Rather than have them leave the apprenticeship, they will shift them to a new employer. And generally that's the key. Like, they generally just don't get along with their current boss, and so sometimes I'll take on someone from there. So that's generally how the apprentices work. Or it's word of mouth with one apprentice to another apprentice, because they go to TAFE together, they're learning together, and they're all talking. And if you're not providing a good workspace, you'll quickly find out that you're not loved, and that's the best way I've found for finding an apprentice.
Yeah, cool.
And it doesn't take much to get to know what you need and know what you're looking for, and know whether that person is fit for that job, and I guess moving away from apprentices, if you're moving to an actual tiler or a contractor, that's really just also word of mouth, creating relationships with people, even if it's the person at the tile shop, the whoever sells you your glue, wherever you buy your tiles, if you're having coffee at their shop in the morning, whatever it might be, is just always putting yourself out there, letting people know you are looking for someone, especially if it's something specific. If you're after a pool tiler, or if you're after someone that does stone cladding or large format tiles, if you need to put it out there, and create a bit of a buzz about, maybe what you've got to offer.
Fantastic, mate. That's really great. It sounds like you're connected in at the grassroots level of trying to find talent, and that's pretty important. Being involved with the TAFEs and the universities and things like that, and having those connections. I'm sure there's other people out there doing it as well, but certainly it's great to hear that you're having some real wins there, and clearly brand and reputation of your business plays a massive part in attracting the right talent for the business too, right? So people for sure. As you say, the industry is small. Everyone talks. If there's a bit of a cowboy out there, he's probably he or her may have a very hard time getting people to work for them from day one. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, super cool. Well, mate, just moving forward into the topics are a little bit over the place here, but I want to try and get as much out of you as I can in the time that we are together. Just want to talk a little bit about one of the things that comes up a lot is how different tiling contractors manage their builder relationships. It's obviously a very hot topic, and you see a lot out there online in social media land as well about the good, the bad, and the indifferent experiences that people have. Can you share with us how you go about basically effectively managing your builder relationships and getting the best out of them?
So I think I don't work for sort of the cookie cutter type builder.
Yeah.
So any of those mass production type builders, I haven't got experience working for those people. And so I guess initially I started with commercial work, and commercial work's very, it's very black and white. So here's the contract, here's the specification, here's the specified tiles, here's the drawings, this is what you're doing. And if anything varied or, changed from any of those, that was a variation. And so to have a variation approved, you learn quickly, if you didn't get the variation written on a piece of paper in writing, even if it was, all the jobs are a rush. So let's just put that aside. All the jobs are the most important job you have, even though they're not. And you need to make sure that your project manager or the supervisor is writing down the variation. Like, you need it in writing. That's for starters. You take the variation, and when you're invoicing, you don't invoice. You don't put your contractual claim and your variation claim together on the same invoice. That's another thing I learned, because if there's a dispute for the variation claim, they'll just hold back all of the claim. And so you're better off invoicing for the contractual stuff. Like, you just send that off, and that's the black and white. That's what it is. And if there's any question on the variation, at least you're not missing out on the cash flow of the contractual claim. And so the idea is then to only claim for things that you've had approval for. If there's something a bit grey, you yourself may know that it's a grey zone, and by putting it in, you may or may not have it approved. And that depends on the relationship you have with your project manager. It's really the relationship with the project manager. So the supervisor, it's great to have a good relationship with them, but they're not the ones paying the bills or approving the variations or the invoices. So I like to create these good relationships with the project managers. And so whether that project manager stays with that company forever, wherever that project manager goes, that's where the relationship goes. And so I guess my relationship's not with the builder, it's with the people that the builder employs. And I will follow those people forever, because you look after each other. And it's important to have people that they've got your back. If you need money paid quicker than normal, maybe outside of the contractual terms, they might be able to get you an earlier payment. That might be in exchange for you, getting on top of something. Then when they call you and say, "Hey, I need this done," you do it literally the next day. And this is how the relationships are created. Never letting people down. It's a good way to start.
Being super reliable is pretty important in this industry, right? There certainly isn't enough trades out there for the majority of different fields of construction, and finishing trades are obviously one of those areas where we're sort of very lacking in skilled talent and full stop talent. So, but certainly managing relationships and that communication piece is clearly very important. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
So I think the communication that's probably the most important. If you're not going to be on site the next day and you're programmed to be there, you need to communicate that early, and because you're not the only one that's affected by you not being on site, and because it has a flow-on effect to other trades, of course. And so just the builder knowing that you're not going to be there, that might annoy him, but he can plan the site and he can plan the day and the week coming ahead a lot easier and better,
Yeah, cool. Thanks, buddy. So on the back end of that question and your thorough response, thank you, because that was awesome. Like, managing customer expectations sort of falls in the same bucket, I think, because of the type of work that you do. Do you find it difficult to manage the expectations of the quality of the work and the timeframes of the work that you're pumping out? Are there things there that our audience should know that could help them?
So I think in regards to expectation, in a commercial world, you're dealing with an architect. You're probably never dealing with the actual client, who could be, some multi-corporation, whatever. You're really dealing with an architect and the builder. And I guess the demand on the expectation is, it does need they do need to be coached through it. If they're, I guess let's say you're laying something new, like some stone mosaic that's varying in color and thickness and that sort of thing. They're the sort of things you need to gauge the expectation, and you need to be upfront about, we as tilers, we know what's going to be wrong before we start a job. It's pretty easy to go, right, there's different thicknesses in these tiles. They're installed on a sheet. The sheet then prevents you from being able to adjust the height and thickness of the actual product, of the end product. And so you could have this undulating look, in this example, and should maybe I be peeling it off the sheet and laying it singularly, or is the client / architect going to accept the fact that this sheeted product is going to cause issues down the track or not? And I guess from that point of view, it's really about being upfront early.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting point you make about being able to see firsthand the challenges that you're going to face before you're actually there, and being able to determine what's going to cause you some pain and how you need to react to that to ensure a smooth job or an effective start to a job, or even throughout the tiling process as well.
Yeah. So early, it's important that early in the piece you really recognise what the issues could be, and you really need to lay that out. And that's the best way to avoid any sort of complications. Again, the communication.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Really, really good. So moving into a little bit about, how tectonic tiling markets themselves. As an installation expert or professional person, I mean, how does you and your team go about marketing that in the big bad world of social media and websites and all that sort of stuff? And what works for you, or do you need to? I mean, is your reputation and your brand strong enough now for that pipeline of work to just keep coming in?
Yeah, I guess we don't market very much. I mean, the marketing from the early days was really just all the guys wore a uniform. They wore the uniform well. It's branded uniform. You know what I mean? Everyone looks good on site. And to me, that was really important to maintain at the early stage. You know what I mean? Because appearance is really, that's everything. If you're the sort of person that's covered in glue from head to toe, to me, that already tells me what sort of tiler you are. And so if that's how you want to be portrayed, or go to a site meeting covered from head to toe in glue, that's probably a representation of the sort of work you do and the sort of mess you leave behind, where, teaching the guys to be clean and work clean and leaving a clean end product, that's all part of it. And so that all comes back to having a clean uniform with good company branding. And that was really the start. That was really the only way we marketed ourselves. And then I guess once Instagram came around, that we have a platform on there, but we don't have a website, and most of our work is really word of mouth. And I think, there's not many tilers in Adelaide, and we used to do some really specific sort of, commercial swimming pools or shopping centre work or Westfield stuff. And, there's only so many contractors you can use for those jobs in South Australia. And, sometimes we'd find ourselves competing against interstate contractors, but, ultimately it often comes to an Adelaide contractor.
Yeah, nice. So given your brand and your expertise in the industry there for the past 20 years, what's your pipeline looking like now? Are you finding that there's plenty of work out there for the next 12, 18, 24 months?
I think definitely for the next 6 to 12 months, there's a stack of work. both government work, commercial work. I don't really have a finger on the pulse for the domestic market, but what I see coming across from the tendering point of view is there's great things coming. There's big jobs. There's plenty of work for everyone, and I don't feel like there's any need for anyone chopping the prices or trying to fight jobs on the meter rate. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you've raised just then about rates, and I know it's a little bit different with potentially a little bit different with the work that you're doing compared to some other tiling contractors out there. And I know that all the teams and companies are different sizes. So I get that rates can be somewhat different all over the place. Are you finding that there's a bit more room to push the rates up now that with all the building material price increases and things like that? Is that something that there's room to do that, or are we still living in a land of it's very difficult to move north with the pricing?
Well, I think obviously all the price increases across the board. I think there's nothing in the last 2 years that hasn't increased at least 20%, whether it be silicon or adhesive or grout or sand and cement. Like everything has had an increase.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that there's an expectation that the meter rates aren't what they used to be, and the expectation of the quantity surveyors and architects and builders and clients alike, they're just expecting to pay more, and that's because they have to, because in order for us to make similar margins, obviously we need to increase our price. And so but it needs to be justified. You can't be increasing the price but still using the cheapest adhesive and using water instead of primer, and we maintain a brand, and we use a system, and we stick to the system, and we make we use the best of everything along the way, and that guarantees our projects and longevity in the end product, and that's what the people are paying for.
Yeah, awesome. No, look, it's it's good to hear that there's room for that to occur. I mean, you look at some of the different platforms around the place, and I think some tiling contractors are struggling to move north on some pricing. And I know everyone's situation is different. Every state is different. We sort of have different rules for licensing state by state here in Australia. So it makes it challenging to make some changes in the industry. So it's good to hear that you've got the ability to do that.
Yeah, but I think if you're struggling to get any more out of your builder, you probably need to move on from your builder. And I think you'll find if you're a good contractor, the builder won't want to see you go, and he will then probably meet your demands. But I mean, I wouldn't be holding him to ransom, but I'd even found out recently that one of a contractor that used to work for me that had been solidly working for a builder for 5+ years, he could not move his rates, not even $1. And he was one of the best tilers I knew. And I thought, mate, you were just, he was in this comfortable little space, and he didn't want to ruffle any feathers, and was just happy to continue, getting this work, but at a very cheap rate. And to me, I just thought, that builder, he would have paid, if you were going to leave and go somewhere else, he probably would have paid more to keep you there, or you should have just gone to another builder to teach your current builder the fact that he really was onto something good. You know what I mean? And then it probably would come back to you, or you could probably go back to him and negotiate a better deal for the next contract.
Absolutely. Excellent advice, mate. Thank you. It's really it's good to hear that from a heavyweight in the industry. Mate,
thanks, Mark.
Tell me something, or tell us more about, have you got any big installation tips that you've learned over the last 20 years that have really saved your game that you can share with us?
Some big install tips. What could I think of? It's funny that you just take for granted everything that you've learnt from day dot, and you have to make mistakes in order to learn, unfortunately. And in tiling, it costs a lot of money to make mistakes. And I think it's, you know, you need to accept the mistakes as part of a massive learning process, you know, because without them, you just haven't learned anything. If everything's going sweet for you and nothing goes wrong, you haven't really pushed yourself. You're not really learning a lot, and you're just in the status quo. You know, you're just going along and you're just doing your thing. You know, and I suppose, you know, me pushing to always try new things and push ourselves out of the comfort zone. That's really created. Yeah, there's mistakes along the way, but those mistakes have taught us a lot of things. And I think it's don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to just cop one on the chin. But in the process, you and your whole crew, you will all learn, you know. And I think, to me, those mistakes are the most important thing. If anyone tells you that they don't make mistakes, it's they're probably full of shit. You know?
Well, yeah, or they're hiding from something. So, mate, hey, look, that's really cool. I mean, embracing mistakes is, and this is the takeout that I'm getting from what you're saying, is that you're obviously embracing those mistakes so that you can learn, another part of the business or another part of the tiling, and clearly, you know, the next job or the next project, you go, hey boys, remember what we did last time? Let's not do that. Let's make a few changes now before we even get to that part in the tiling process, and it won't happen again. So
and I think it's really important to, you know each step of your process, screeding, waterproofing. You need to know, you know, what that is worth to you. You need to, you know, sit down and do the numbers and say, like, what is this actually worth a square meter? How much am I actually making? And just going through, you know, each line of the processes and really working out what does what cost and what is what worth, and then that way you'll be able to reflect in your meter rate, you know, the true value of your worth, I guess.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
And so, yeah, a lot of people they don't even know. A lot of young tilers, I'll say, how did you come up with your meter rate? You know, they've got no idea. A lot of them are just, that's what the builder told me it was. I'm like, no, that's, you know, that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
You need to work out. You need to work it out.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Like, don't let someone tell you your rates. You tell them your rates. Yeah,
that's right. And so, you know, that's an important part of the process. Is even as a solo tiler or a tiler that has an apprentice, you need to know what that is. Just because you're a small fry doesn't mean that your processes should be small. You know, you need to have big processes in place.
Fantastic.
Even if you're just a one-man show.
Completely agree. Aaron, we're nearly up for time today. However, I really want to thank you for making the time and getting on the show and sharing with us a little bit more about you. Hopefully in the future, there'll be an opportunity for us to jump on together. Next year, we're going to be doing a lot of video style interviewing and hopefully some very live on job sites with people or you know where they're located. So, mate, thanks again. You've been terrific. I really appreciate you being on the Tiling Connect podcast. And mate, you have a fantastic rest of the week.
Thanks, Mark. That was excellent. I'm looking forward to a couple more of these next year. It'll be great.
Awesome, buddy. Mate, take care. And until then, we'll stay connected.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Tiling Connect podcast. If you'd like to hear more, don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions or would like to be involved in the show, email us at tilingconnect@gmail.com. See you next episode. Until then, stay connected.